Hello and welcome. My name is Cole Anderson. Today we will be talking about the Hungarian Melody composed by Franz Schubert. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, please consider donating to my account on patreon.com. Patreon is an online platform that allows viewers to support their favorite creators of independent content through monthly pledges. Any amount is appreciated, and thank you for taking the time to watch this channel. If you keep up with me on this channel for very long, you will quickly discover that the Austrian composer Franz Schubert is one of my all-time favorite musicians. Why is this exactly? Well, maybe I like the way that he allows musical space to expand, the way he can make time seem to stand still in breathtaking fashion, as well as the subtle, bittersweet quality of his music. It seems as though Schubert was intimately connected with all the most personal feelings that really make us human and that come to us over the course of our lives. The states of mind and moods that he explores are so universal and timeless that his music does not seem to have aged at all over the past 2 centuries or so since his death. It still goes straight to the heart, at least when he's at his best. Many of the characteristics of Schubert that I find to be most attractive are the very same characteristics that lead many others to be very critical. The clarity and patience of his structures are oftentimes seen as naive and even vacuous to those who feel that good music should always have development, complexity, driving force. This perceived weakness is oftentimes exacerbated given the length of some of Schubert's longer pieces. In fact, Schubert has oftentimes been compared very much to his disadvantage to Beethoven. This was probably due to Schubert's veneration of Beethoven, the composer, and the frequent and not always subtle homages to the older composer that interlace many of Schubert's pieces. All 3 of Schubert's famous last 3 piano sonatas contain not particularly veiled references to Beethoven's pieces. Nonetheless, although Schubert paid homage to Beethoven, Schubert's whole manner of writing is entirely different than Beethoven, or indeed any other of the important composers of the Viennese classical school who came before him. The great pianist Alfred Brendel summed it up when he said that Schubert moves with the assurance of a sleepwalker. His works almost never seem to be calculated in advance. They seem like outpourings of improvisation and pure songfulness. And yet I would argue that Schubert is never at a loss, and his works hang together in their own way, every bit as well as a piece by Beethoven, Haydn, Mozart, Clementi. And indeed, in many ways, Schubert was much more influential on the next few generations of composers than Beethoven was. I'm thinking particularly of composers like Schumann, Liszt, Brahms, Bruckner, and Mahler. And I'll argue this point more in later videos when I talk about his larger works. Even in a lovely miniature like the Hungarian Melody, his way of writing is immediately apparent. Schubert allows the first melodic idea to seemingly appear out of nothing, and in doing so sustains the opening harmony of the piece for 6 whole bars with no variation. In the context of the length of this little piece, the patience with musical time that this shows is remarkable. It might seem odd to find the Viennese Schubert writing a piece in Hungarian style, but the music of Romany performers was enormously popular at that time in Central Europe, and although the music of Schubert, Brahms, and even Liszt, who was himself Hungarian, did not always accurately portray genuine Hungarian folk music, they do serve as wonderful evidence of the existence of this marvelous musical tradition that captivated Europe in the 18th, 19th century. And this tradition, of course, is still very much alive at the present time as well. Schubert adds many subtle surface touches to lend a Hungarian flavor to this piece, including kind of twanging grace notes and seemingly improvised roulade figures. The emotional center of the piece is completely Schubert, though, with its timeless feeling of wistfulness and gentle acceptance. Also, so typical for Schubert are his use of parallel major-minor keys. It oftentimes seems difficult to say in a Schubert piece, is this really a major key or a minor key? He seems to slide back and forth at will, and each such change brings with it its own subtle emotional shift. This kind of uncertainty is another powerful element in Schubert's repertoire of compositional tools. So in the video, I call this form a mini sonata form. In reality, it's somewhere in between a rounded binary form and a true sonata form movement. And just to clarify that point, sonata form grew out of the habit of writing rounded binary form movements. So the movements from Baroque suites by Bach, Handel, and others, Scarlatti sonatas also, and minuet and scherzos from classical composers are all pieces that are written in binary form. Although this particular piece doesn't have the melodic and textural variety that one would typically associate with the sonata movement, it does, however, have a very extended development section, given the length of the piece, and an equally lengthy coda, so I put it somewhere in between. Please enjoy the performance, and be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thank you very much.